The national budget for 2020-2021 stood at 3.2457 trillion Rwandan francs and is now expected to jump to 3.4647 trillion. As part of its analysis, the Parliamentary Standing Committee on the National Budget and Patrimony in the Chamber of Deputies found that the country's push to continue boosting its ability to fund its own budget was significantly affected by the economic repercussions of the COVID-19 pandemic. During the 2019-2020 fiscal year, the money coming from internal funding in the budget fell from 86.6 to 84.8% by the time the 2020-2021 budget was being voted on. And the revised budget is now at 82.8%, meaning a 4.6% drop in 2 years. The reason for this was found to be because the country's loans fell by as much as 9.9%, while aid increased by 10.6%. While presenting this latest draft law to Parliament, the Minister of Finance and Economic Planning had said that the extra funds needed would come from internal funding through taxes as well as aid and loans. Funds from taxation will increase from the 1.4214 trillion Rwandan francs that had been voted into law as part of the budget to 1.5799 trillion, and so that is an increase of 158.5 billion Rwandan francs. Non-tax revenue will go from 184.3 billion to 204.8 billion, an increase of 20.5 billion Rwandan francs. Most of that money will come from the 16.4 billion Rwandan francs the IMF agreed to cancel as Rwanda's debt to allow it to be channeled to the national budget to deal with the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic. International aid is expected to increase by 99.7 billion Rwandan francs from 495.5 billion to 592.2 billion, thanks to the World Bank agreeing to transform half of the new loans Rwanda has with it in this year into aid to reduce the national debt. The chairman of the Standing Committee on the National Budget and Patrimony has noted that certain sectors have been given priority in light of the current pandemic. The Ministry of Health is to get an extra 3.2 billion Rwandan francs to fight the pandemic we find ourselves in, to pay doctors because the sector has seen an increase in personnel. Also, extra funds are needed to buy equipment for things like COVID testing. Another important change we can note is that the agricultural sector was also found to require extra funds to be able to deal with the challenges it has been facing because of the current situation. And so it is getting an extra 1.35 billion Rwandan francs to cater to projects to prepare marshlands and also bolster the Rurambi reservoir in Bugesera that occasionally causes flooding in the farms it irrigates. Money for the regular budget will increase by 9.3%, with a jump of 2.9% for money directed towards development and as much as 53.9% when it comes to government investment. The draft law will now see a few adjustments based on inputs by the parliamentarians before making its way to the office of the President of the Republic for his signature. And after that, it must be published in the National Gazette before it can come into effect as law.